All right, thank you, Ashley. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Out here in St. Louis, still working from home, so I apologize in advance if you hear any dogs barking or anything like that in the background. We'll try to work around that. So thank you all so much for joining me on today's live webcast. And let's go ahead and get started here. So here is a big, long list of all the items that have been added to Revit as part of the 2021 version year release. I will give you a second or two to look over this. Then we will jump in and take a look at these topics a little more in depth. I typically like to do my What's New presentation with more of a live demo, but we have a heck of a lot to cover today. So to keep things moving swiftly, I decided to start off with a little PowerPoint for the best format this morning. If we do have time at the end, I might try to squeeze in some show and tell inside of Revit. I guess we will see how much time we have at the end. All right, so at any rate, we have broken it down by categories of overall platform improvements, and then by discipline. We will try to go through them in the order shown on the screen. So I'll give you just another second to look at that. All right, so with that, here is a nice title slide for our overall platform improvements, and let's go ahead and jump right in here. So you can now link and unload images and PDFs and project models locally and from the cloud. You can easily keep this information updated while also not increasing file size or embedding the image or PDF file for security or IP reasons. This feature improves sorting, adds size reporting, adds multi-select for unload, reload, remove operations, adds the ability to convert links to imports, and adds the show button to find a PDF or image in the model. Go ahead and utilize and manage images and PDFs much more easily inside of Revit 2021 with the new linking features. Not sure how this affects most people on this call, but I know many of you have offices in other locations around the world, so this could make things run a little smoother for those folks. Essentially, cloud models can be hosted on a Europe data center. This applies to work shared cloud models using Revit Cloud Work Sharing and non-work shared cloud models using cloud models for Revit. So you will have more choice now in where your cloud hosted projects are stored. Revit 2021 enables a better experience for BIM 360 project navigation in the Revit home screen. It is now easier to differentiate between recent files and cloud-hosted models. This list of projects is now searchable, making it easier to find the desired project. The Go to BIM 360 button is a handy shortcut to access the project on BIM 360 directly. And help links are easily accessed from the bottom left portion of the screen. So the Revit home experience has been significantly improved in Revit 2021 for projects hosted on BIM 360. For BIM users who are getting started with Revit, the customized workspace is a user experience improvement that makes multiple discipline tools feel like purposefully built. You can now create a user profile to allow Revit to provide a workspace suggestion tailored to your work discipline and job role. This feature takes the first step towards building a customized workspace for Revit users. I'll also add that these dialog boxes that you're looking at right now will only be available the first time you launch the software after installation. If you already installed and closed them or just breezed through them, don't worry about it, because even without these dialog boxes, you can still access the settings that they control in the same way that you always have through the File Options menu. In Revit 2021, the stripe rows parameter enables you to display alternating schedule rows in contrasting colors, making large schedules easier to read. Both colors are user selectable for each schedule view. When you enable the stripe rows parameter for a schedule, you will also have the option to enable show stripe rows on sheets. This parameter will display your selected row colors in sheet views. These settings may be saved in a schedule view template. So this new feature gives users more control over the appearance of schedules in your projects. While Revit already offers multidisciplinary BIM capabilities for higher quality coordinated designs, Autodesk is now extending Revit's built-in features for better support for bridge design in Revit. A new category filter for the infrastructure discipline has been added. Bridge model categories and subcategories and bridge annotation categories have also been added to help manage the display of bridge-related elements. These categories have been designed to support the InfraWorks to Revit workflow, so creating new Revit model families based on these categories is not supported. However, annotation families are supported at this time. The US survey foot has also been added as a unit in Revit 2021 to better support infrastructure design in Revit. This enables coordinates to match between Civil 3D and Revit when the survey data being utilized is in US survey feet. So Revit 2021 offers new features to better support bridge design workflows and infrastructure in general. All right, 1 second here. Okay, so in Revit 2021, Dynamo for Revit 2.5 is included in the Revit installation. Dynamo 2.5 provides a host of new capabilities. For example, Dynamo now finds required packages in the refreshed workspace references viewer and automatically notifies you if any are missing. The viewer lists the packages used in your graph along with their version and status. In the Package Manager UI, the downvote button has been removed to reduce confusion and promote positive reinforcement. The filter icon has been changed to filter by text to improve discoverability. Significant performance improvements have been made, particularly for large graphs that make changes to a Revit model. Runtimes have been reduced up to 99.9%, which is pretty nice. So these and many other enhancements will improve computational design workflows in Revit 2021. In Revit 2021, 10 new Dynamo Revit nodes have been added to support the most commonly requested conditions for geometry joining, pinning and unpinning, and hosting of Revit elements. These nodes will help users work more productively through Dynamo-driven task automation. Revit offers users the ability to create view filters that control the visibility or graphic display of elements. Using the Filters tab in the Visibility and Graphics dialog, these filters may be applied to one or more views in a Revit project. In Revit 2021, a new Enable Filter column has been added to that dialog. This gives you the ability to quickly turn on and off the overrides of a view filter without having to remove that filter from the view. This new feature in Revit 2021 gives users the ability to quickly apply or remove view filter graphic overrides from a view. Yeah, this was just a nice addition, something I feel like will help clarify the view filter workflows tremendously. In previous versions of Revit, tags assigned to components did not rotate with those elements. They maintained their original orientation. In 21, you may now control this behavior. Simply select the tag, open it for editing by clicking the Edit Family button, and enable the Rotate with Component parameter in the Properties palette. This will enable the tag to rotate with the component to which it is assigned on your documentation. This improvement to tags helps users create more accurate and readable annotations in Revit. And a little editorial here, if I may, since this feature is a property of the family itself, you may want to duplicate the family and have one that rotates and one that doesn't if you need both. But I know for me, I kind of like the look of the rotated tag, so I'll probably just update that. Let's see here. So void cutability can be applied to family geometry by using type and instance parameters. Voids are often used in Revit families, and in some cases can be the defining difference between family types. This enhancement will be particularly useful for countertop families that utilize different fixture inserts, or for window families that utilize sills with and without a drip edge. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. This feature provides users with better control over that void functionality in Revit. I'll be able to save a lot of extra families creation with this one. It'll make things a lot easier. All right, and then here are a few other enhancements that didn't need a dedicated slide. Revit's out-of-the-box hard-coded line styles are now consistently named and sorted. That was just kind of one of those funny things that's always been there, and it's kind of nice to see they cleaned it up a little bit. Also, to lighten the Revit installer, most sample content is no longer installed with Revit. A new Get Autodesk Content button has been added to ensure that people who do use the sample content have quick and easy access to download this information. Sun and shadows are more accurate in extreme locations, especially in situations where the sun doesn't set, such as near the North and South poles. So in Revit 2021 features many small enhancements intended to address customer requests and improve productivity. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features of 21 that have been added specifically for architects. I would say of all of the new features added, this has by far been the most fun to play around with. Generative Design is a design exploration process to quickly generate and evaluate high-performing design alternatives. Until now, many generative design tools have been hard to use because they required our customers to know how to code, understand special terminology, or how genetic algorithms work. So now you can use generative design directly in Revit to quickly generate design alternatives based on your goals, constraints, and inputs. Generative design provides a set of sample study types to demonstrate how this tool can be used to generate outcomes for certain design challenges. You can easily run one of these predefined studies or recipes with generative design in Revit, such as the workspace layout or massing. Let's just suppose for a minute that you wanted to determine the best arrangement of desks in a large room. Your goal is to maximize the number of desks while also maximizing views to the outside. You may also want to minimize the distance from each desk to the nearest exit. After generative design has completed a study, you can explore the design alternatives to find the solution that best meets your needs. And for each outcome, the parallel coordinates chart highlights its input and output values. You can also use this chart to filter and prioritize outcomes by simply clicking and dragging over one or more of the columns. Another way to review and analyze outcomes is through the scatter plot. You can use this chart's options to change the criteria used for the X and Y axes and the outcome values. So once you've selected the outcome you'd like to implement in your model, this is the coolest part. You can simply select the outcome and click the Create Revit Elements, and the design change will appear in the model immediately. Hopefully, towards the end, we'll have time to show you that live, because I think it's pretty neat. So there are two other studies that are ready to be used. That's the maximize window views. You may use this sample study type with generative design to generate alternatives to determine the best position in a room for optimal views to the outside. Then there's the 3-box massing to generate alternatives for 3 adjacent buildings as simple masses to maximize floor area while minimizing surface area. So you can start using generative design in Revit today to quickly evaluate design options and save time with automation. So you can work directly in better, easier, and faster live rendered views in Revit 2021. This feature replaces realistic views available in past releases. You can experience 10 times faster performance and automatic exposure control. The new mode is available in all types of views and allows direct editing of the model with rendered materials and lights. Walk through a finished model, design and modify your building with realistic lighting and materials while you work, or place views with materials and lighting onto your sheets. A graphics card with at least 4 gigs of memory is recommended. So work directly in better, easier, and faster realistic views in 21. I really do enjoy this because I used to have to switch my 3D views back to a hidden line or a shaded view when using the walk tool in a camera view. Now I can just keep the realistic view enabled. Really nice enhancement, so thank you, Autodesk. In Revit 2021, you may apply a slant or a tilt to walls during their creation by selecting Slanted from the cross-section instance parameter in the constraints section of the properties palette. You can also change an existing vertical wall to a slanted wall. When the slanted option is selected, the angle from vertical parameter is enabled. Use this parameter to select the inclination of the wall, which can range between plus 90 and minus 90 degrees. Notice I said between plus 90 and minus 90. So like 89.99 in either direction, not 90. You may also use the editing grips at the top of a wall to adjust its height or angle. Windows and doors hosted in Slanted Walls will display an additional orientation instance parameter in the constraints section of the properties palette. You may elect to have the hosted element match the angle of the wall by changing this parameter from vertical to slanted. That probably makes more sense for the windows, probably not the doors. And you may also create slanted walls from walls that are curved or elliptical in plan. And a little more editorial here, just because you can do this in Revit doesn't mean you should do this in reality, but it is nice to have this option. We are no longer constrained by the limits of the software. So this improvement helps users create complex architectural, structural, and even curtain walls in Revit 2021. Autodesk Inventor 2021 extends any CAD functionality for Autodesk Revit to help manufacturers in the construction industry collaborate and coordinate on BIM projects. There is improved interoperability between Revit and Inventor by maintaining an associative link to inserted Revit data as you work. The Revit project can be accessed from a local file or coordinated via the cloud using the Autodesk BIM 360 Common Data Environment. Changes during the design process are inevitable. When the Revit model changes, you'll need to update the Inventor model to suit. Because Revit model is referenced into your Inventor assembly, and changes to the Revit project will also update inside the Inventor assembly and without file translation. So most of the people on this call, I'm assuming, are Revit users. So really nothing has changed on the Revit side, but Inventor users will now be able to use the changes on the Revit side to work on their Inventor models. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the new goodies included for the structural discipline in Revit 2021. Reinforcing bar assemblies, known as standees, are normally required for the support of top mats of reinforcing bars in thick concrete members, such as footings and slabs. These standees have a 3D rebar shape. In Revit 2021, you can define such 3D rebar shapes by rotating the hooks at the ends of the bars and directly inputting the hook lengths for each rebar instance. Hook rotation is considered when defining a rebar shape if included in rebar shape definition. Rebar numbering considers hook rotation along with the other segment length parameters. You can also change hook lengths quickly for each bar in the project. This is accomplished by selecting the override hook lengths option in the properties palette and inputting the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. This is applicable for any rebar with hooks and requires that the hook lengths be assigned to a rebar shape parameter. You can also use the rebar shapes with 3D hooks inside path reinforcement to distribute rebar standees in your structural project. So thanks to this new functionality, structural engineers and detailers can now model standardized 3D rebar shapes, extract bending instructions, and provide full fabrication data for rebar. Rebar couplers are used in reinforced concrete structures to replace normal rebar lap joints. In Revit 2021, you can now use rebar couplers to connect tangent arc-shaped bars in circular concrete structures, such as curved walls, concrete tanks, tunnels, etc. This new feature helps structural engineers and detailers create highly detailed reinforcement models and documentation. In Revit 2021, you can add an end treatment to the end of any rebar without the need for a rebar coupler. Simply select any rebar and change the end treatment at start or end to any of the values defined in a project. This new feature provides structural engineers and detailers with greater control over reinforcement and treatments. In Revit 2021, you can view fabric sheets and custom fabric sheets in 3D views as solid or unobstructed. This feature can be enabled in the same way as for other types of reinforcement, for example, by changing the visibility status, which is available in the properties palette when a fabric sheet is selected. The solid unobscured representation is enabled by instance. This new feature helps structural engineers and detailers improve coordination and reduce clashes through better visualization and reinforcement. So basically now you'll have all the same visibility as you do with the other types of rebar in Revit. Now, the bond between steel and concrete is essential to ensure that they perform as a single entity in a loaded structure. To achieve the full bond, the surfaces needed to be in contact for a calculated length called the anchorage length. In Revit 2021, you can easily specify the hook lengths for each rebar in the project without the need to duplicate the hook type and change the length for that type. This is accomplished by selecting the override hook lengths option in the properties palette and inputting the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. This new feature improves user efficiency and productivity in modeling accurate reinforcement. The structural precast extension formerly offered for Revit is now integrated into Revit 2021 with a dedicated precast ribbon tab located next to the steel tab. These precast features are included in the Revit installation, simplifying their deployment and making them available in all languages supported by Revit. In addition, the on-off button in the previous release has been replaced with the disable precast updates. This change helps prevent the automatic recreation of precast elements due to changes performed on the precast assembly. So small indentations of bracing inserts, for example. This integration of this functionality into Revit 2021 supports multiple stages of the precast workflow, offering advanced tools to automate the process of generating precast assemblies, shop drawings, and files for computer-aided manufacturing machines. In Revit 2021, the Dynamo nodes dedicated to placing steel connections in Revit are provided with the Revit installation as part of Dynamo for Revit. This means that the functionality previously provided by the Autodesk Steel Connections package, including nodes and sample scripts, will now be available in Dynamo for Revit without any additional setup, simplifying deployment and offering an integrated experience with Dynamo. These nodes give you the functionality to drive steel connections by structural analysis results, tightening the integration between analysis and detailing phases, and helping you make better design decisions when adding steel connections to the structural model. The integration of Dynamo nodes for steel connections into Dynamo for Revit provides engineers and designers with better out-of-the-box design automation capabilities. The Structural Results Manager and Results Exploration tools are now integrated into Revit 2021 installation. These tools enable structural engineers to explore and document analysis results to gain insight into a structure's behavior, make appropriate design decisions, and document them properly. Depending on the type of analysis performed, results are presented graphically as maps and diagrams on elements of the analytical model used for analysis. The integration of the structural analysis results exploration features in Revit 2021 enhances the connection between design and analysis for structural engineers. In Revit 2021, steel detailing capabilities have been extended to allow more flexibility when modifying steel elements or connections. To change the shape of a plate, simply select it, press the Edit Boundary button, and stretch one of the plate's edges to the desired location. To edit simple and complex cuts easily, simply select the desired cut using the Tab key, press the Edit Boundary button, and choose from several options to change the shape of the cut or add, for example, a radius to one of its corners. The size of circular openings can now be adjusted in a similar fashion. Select the opening, press the Edit Boundary button, and enter the desired diameter value. These improvements offer you more flexibility and efficiency when detailing steel in Revit. Stiffeners are an important component of structural steel design. They are used to strengthen a steel beam or a column. A dedicated tool for creating stiffeners is now available in the Structural Connection Settings dialog box. Once loaded into your project, it is available from the type selector. You can then insert stiffeners on the selected steel member by specifying the insertion point. Like all Revit families, stiffeners have types. This means you can create a library of stiffeners. Stiffeners can be moved or copied to a different location along the same beam or to a different one. This new dedicated tool will help you efficiently add stiffeners and create more accurate steel design models. Revit users were previously limited to inserting steel components in 3D views and 2D horizontal views, such as level and floor plan views. In Revit 2021, this limitation has been removed. Revit users may now place steel components in 2D vertical views. For example, a user may insert a steel plate, an elevation view, or a vertical section view. This new feature gives you the freedom to model steel components in any view, wherever you prefer to see, create, and adjust them. And this will make it easier to work with steel components simultaneously in any 2D and 3D view or combo. One more here for structural. So when creating engineering drawings for steel connections, you may wish to create dimensions to the center of a plate for more accuracy. In addition to creating edge distances for a steel plate, it is now possible to snap to its midpoint and create dimensions indicating the distance from the plate edge to its center, both vertically and horizontally. For stiffeners and connection plates along a beam, improvements have been made that enable you to dimension them from center with a dimension to the center line of the beam web. Because these dimensions are parametric, if you move these stiffeners, the values of the dimensions between them will update automatically. This feature will help you efficiently create accurate, readable engineering documentation for structural steel. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the MEP enhancements for Revit 2021. In electrical settings, there is a new node called circuit naming. The circuit naming schemes created here show up as options in the circuit naming parameter list on each panel. You can select the scheme for the project that is used for all panels that have their circuit naming values set to by project setting. In order to make Revit more adaptable to a global market, Autodesk is providing a flexible method to define circuit naming schemes. Revit now supports showing a single bus column in the panel schedule templates that only show a single phase. Loads on a single phase LN panel will now all be connected to a single phase. With this enhancement, when selecting a distribution system to assign to a panel, Revit will check the voltage and poles assigned to the connector and filter out any distribution systems that don't match. All LN panel loads are on a single phase, and the phase total loads tabulate accordingly. The panel schedule will show the loads on the phase defined by what phase it is connected to on the panel it is fed from. Schedules that use the hide column for third phase option will now hide columns for all unused phases and will be applied automatically during upgrade. The option text has also been revised to reflect this new behavior. After upgrading, if a model already has circuits connected to mismatched panels, the circuit connection will be kept. Then, if a user continues to assign circuits after upgrade, a warning displays to let the user know of a mismatch scenario. With this enhancement, Revit now properly supports single phase, one pole, one hot conductor LN panel boards. Switchboards no longer report a value for the max #1 pole breaker parameter in schedules and view filters. as the max number of circuits parameter is used instead. Also, there is a new family parameter in electrical equipment part types for the switchboard. Switchboard schedules now show the quantity of circuits rather than the number of connected poles. Prior to this enhancement, 1 and 2 pole circuits are always connected to phase A when connected to a switchboard, making it not possible for a user to specify what phase a load is connected to. In Revit 2021, a new switch phases command has been added when selecting a circuit in a switchboard panel schedule view. This toggles the phase to which the circuit is connected. Loads on the switchboard bus update accordingly. Additionally, it is now possible to modify parameters of spares and spaces, such as the poles and frame size. This allows users to specify the desired phase for circuits on switchboards. The project browser now lists panel schedules under the sheets on which they are placed, improving consistency with other features of the project browser and helping users more quickly navigate their project to get to the information they need. They are also searchable within the project browser. Also, part of the 2020.2 release was making it possible to modify the properties of circuits and panels in the properties palette from within the panel schedule view, making it easier and quicker to make modifications to these components without having to switch views. This addition provides electrical designers with faster and more consistent navigation for panel schedules. Using the work sharing display to compare the legacy and new behavior, previously all indirectly modified elements are borrowed. Now it's only the directly modified elements that are borrowed. To resolve work sharing issues, the auto heal behavior for inline elements was disabled. Understanding of the trade-off for having the undesirable behaviors removed versus being in control of exactly what happens is beneficial. These improvements will enable MEP professionals to collaborate more effectively when using Revit work sharing. The Revit connector for PNID creates a connection between Revit and the plant 3D PNID schematic diagrams to enable pipe modeling in Revit from BIM 360 docs. This replaces functionality previously available on BIM 360 Team. Once Revit has connected to the Plant 3D collaboration project, the PNID diagram is available in Revit together with a list of components contained within the PNID diagram. Each PNID part is color-coded to ensure correct usage and positioning. PNID Modeler for Revit is now hosted on BIM 360 docs. Revit now supports cubic feet per hour, cubic feet per minute, and liters per hour as units for pipe flow. This addresses a popular customer request. The import and export features are now located in standardized menu locations, and output tools have been relocated from the add-ins tab to the contextual menu that appears on selection of MEP fabrication parts. MEP fabrication export is also located under the File tab export menu. The former Revit extension for MEP fabrication has been fully integrated into Revit 2021. Okay, so got another slide or two here. So the systems analysis feature in Revit, which extends on the capabilities of Autodesk Insight that leverages location and climate data to perform whole building performance analysis, addresses this challenge by giving HVAC designers the ability to use architectural models in Revit at any level of completeness. With systems analysis, designers can quickly sketch their layouts, define zones, and even attach preliminary equipment that can be further refined as more detail is added. And once systems and the zones they serve are defined, analytical models can be generated. Designers can then use Revit views and schedules to validate that their systems are properly defined and connected before the analysis begins by exploring their analytical systems in the systems browser. Powered by Energy Plus, the system analysis tool comes with 2 default analysis routines, one for annual building performance and one for calculating loads and sizing, but custom routines can be created as well. And when the analysis is completed, designers can explore their reports in graphical and tabular form. With Revit systems analysis, enjoy integrated HVAC analysis and modeling, better building design and performance. All right, so this brings us to the end of the PowerPoint portion, and let's take a look here. Yeah, it looks like I left a few minutes, so let's take a look at Revit and see some of the improvements in action here. Let me just kind of get a little combobulated here. All right, gonna jump over to Revit here. So this is one of the first things you're gonna see when you get inside Revit. This is what it looks like. Let's say I want to start a new project here. We'll click the new button. Of course, I've got our favorite plumbing consultant with us as always. So you'll see something a little different here. The template files have been renamed. This might be because I installed Imperial and Metric, but let's take a look at generative design here. And for that, I'm just going to start a file from scratch and showcase a little generative design here. So I'm going to put in a couple walls. Make kind of just a somewhat odd looking building shape here, just so we can have a little fun with this. Gonna put a couple windows in here. Hopefully I didn't make that shape too odd. I want to do a quick generative design here because we don't have too much time left, and I don't want to forget to put a couple doors in here. And put a room in here, so I've got enclosed space, some rooms, some doors, windows, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a little desk in here. All right, so I've done the setup. That's all I need to do for the setup. Let's go to the Manage tab, click on Create Study. And we're gonna click on the Workspace Layout button here. And looking at the top, we want to set the method to optimize. Then it says, go ahead and select a room. So I click the Select button, click on my room here. Then I need to select the desk family. And for the variables, I'm okay with any rotation of the desk. The spacing between 10 to 16 feet between rows is good. Now my goals, let's say we want to minimize the distance to the exits, but we want to maximize views to the outside and number of desks. So I also want to constrain the number of desks. I want like a minimum of 10 and then maybe a maximum of 50. And I should be able to just click generate here. Now, let's let this crank through this. Of course, you know, I got this to work several times this morning. If it doesn't work, I've got a video I can show you, at least showing one of them to work and what it looks like. So this is pretty neat if we can actually get it to work. It's just kind of chunking through here. It'll only take a minute or less to at least get started and show you some results on the screen. If I get impatient, I might just kind of show the video. But yeah, I think while we'll kind of make some use of our time here. While that's powering through this, why don't we go ahead and open it up for some Q&A. Since we have a few minutes left, go ahead and type your questions in if you have them, and I'll be happy to answer. And oh, there we go. It looks like some of the scenarios have already popped up. Beautiful, excellent. So this is great. We are getting some fabulous results here. Let's look at the screen. You can sort by whatever criteria you entered. I want to do total number of desks, and I can click this arrow to change it by descending. So this item right here is showing 50 desks, and since I've clicked on it, you can follow its path here. So it's for this scenario, it's got 50 desks. Views to outside score over here is, I guess, above average. You can see all the results listed here. Okay, yeah, so you can see it's still cranking through this and updating. So I might get better results as it comes up with them. So let's take a look at some of these other ones. Maybe this one that's kind of rectilinear. Oh, here's a good one. So we've got 50 desks here, and this has actually got a good setting for views to outside, but it's got a really high distance to the exterior. Let's check one of these other ones. So this one's got a lower score for views to exterior, lesser travel distance. So I'll just kind of work my way through and find the ones that I think are going to best suit my design criteria here. So this one's got 49 desks. Let's check this one out. 48 desks. So we can evaluate all these. I'm going to go ahead and pick maybe one at one of these odd angles just because it looks kind of cooler. And let's say I want to go with this. So you can click the Create Revit Elements button here. It says it's creating the Revit elements. And there they are. Of course, we might have to delete our original, but that laid out all the desks probably way quicker than I could have done it manually. And we know it meets our criteria. And looks pretty cool. Let's look at it in 3D. So you can see everything I did there was just out of the box. Very cool stuff. I think we've got another minute or so, but yeah, I guess while we're kind of looking at this, I'll put the generative design back on the screen here. Go ahead and type any questions now, and if I don't see any or I can't answer any of them, I'll be happy to address them after via email. All right. So I'll go ahead and switch back over to my slide here and give you some contact info. All right, so hopefully everybody enjoyed today's webcast. If you didn't get your question answered, I'll definitely make sure to follow up. And if you would like to contact me or anybody at Hagerman, here's an easy way to get a hold of me. And thanks for joining.
Thanks,
I'll hand
Dan.
it back over to Ashley.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Just a reminder that that survey will pop up as we close down today, and also that you will receive an email tomorrow containing the link for the recording of today's presentation. And have a great day, everyone. Bye.